After a restless night in the forest, the heroes woke up determined to continue their journey toward the lost treasure. The sun had barely risen when they gathered their belongings and headed deeper into the woods. The trees surrounded them from all sides, their thick branches forming an arch of shadows that made the atmosphere even more eerie. As they walked along the narrow paths, they noticed the forest growing darker and more foreboding, even in broad daylight. The birds had stopped singing, and the wind blew with a whispering sound as if carrying hidden messages. The heroes felt something strange in the air, but they continued on, unaware of what awaited them. After hours of walking, they finally saw an old, dilapidated cabin hidden among the trees. It seemed abandoned for decades, covered in moss and dirt. Despite its rundown appearance, there was something strange that drew them toward it. They approached the rickety wooden door cautiously and pushed it open slowly, hearing a chilling creak as it swung inward. The first room was dark, containing only a few scattered pieces of old furniture. The walls were adorned with paintings that seemed to follow the heroes with their eyes, making them feel uncomfortable. As they explored the cabin, they heard a faint sound coming from somewhere inside. A mysterious whisper, like a call from another world. The heroes shuddered for a moment, but they decided to investigate. They climbed the creaking stairs to the upper floor, where the sound seemed closer. On the upper floor, they found an old mirror covered in dust. As they approached it, they noticed that their reflections were not clear. There was something strange about the mirror, as if it was reflecting something other than reality. When they looked closely, ghostly figures began to appear behind them. But when they turned around, there was nothing there. While trying to make sense of what was happening, a ghostly figure of an old woman suddenly appeared before them. She was dressed in tattered old clothes, and her eyes were lifeless. She began to speak in a trembling voice, claiming to be a victim of an ancient curse, and that she needed their help to free her trapped soul. She asked them to follow her to a hidden room beneath the cabin. Despite their fear, the heroes decided to help the ghost, thinking they might discover something important. The old woman led them to a small door hidden behind one of the paintings. When they opened the door, they found a staircase leading down to a dark basement. They descended cautiously, each step echoing ominously in the space. When they reached the basement, they discovered that the room was filled with strange symbols and candles burning unnaturally. The walls were covered in inscriptions in an unknown language. Everything in the room radiated dread. They realized this was no ordinary cabin but a place haunted by evil forces. Suddenly, the door they had entered through began to close slowly by itself. They tried to open it again, but it was tightly shut. The walls began to move as if trying to trap them inside the basement. They understood that the ghost had deceived them, and that they had become ensnared in this terrifying trap. The heroes frantically searched for an escape, but every attempt was blocked by the unseen forces. The walls closed in on them, the air growing thick and difficult to breathe. All they could hear was the sound of a malicious laugh coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. In a moment of desperation, one of the heroes remembered something they had found at the beginning of their journey. An old amulet that a wise man had told them would protect them from evil. Quickly, they pulled out the amulet and held it high, and it began to glow with a bright light. The darkness retreated for a moment, and the walls stopped moving.